We'll take roll call. Councilmember Bracco,
Here.
Councilmember Klein,
Here.
Councilmember Fugazzi,
Here.
Councilmember Hilton,
Here.
Councilmember Marks, Councilmember Ramirez, and Mayor Boto.
Here. All right, thank you very much. And just full disclosure, the fact that the other council members aren't here, there's no obligation, there's no requirement whatsoever. The fact that they're not here is not a reflection whatsoever of them. I'm just so glad that any of the council members who want to come. So thank you guys for being here. And as always, I'd like to introduce the ones that are here today. So down on my right, Councilmember Fugazzi, his wife Nancy, and their little dog. What's the dog?
Teddy.
Teddy. Teddy. That's a cute dog, man.
Thank you.
You're in the commercial.
Yeah, thank you.
And also Councilmember Hilton's here, thank you. Councilmember Bracco's here, Councilmember Klein, it was on coffee duty, I don't know where you went, but Councilmember Klein is here somewhere. And Stefan coming in on a Saturday, thank you very much. Okay, and there's a little guy here in the back, it's my son Jonathan. Jonathan, you want to wave? He's a future engineer building his Lego set for the morning. This as all of you probably remember, when you had children, sometimes you know, somebody watching the kid, I had a little oversight this morning, so he's here with me today. So glad you're here, Jonathan. Thank you. So my spotlight from last month in September, I kind of reviewed again, you know, what's going on in the city. I want to remind everybody that while we're in the midst of interim city manager, we do have an interim city manager right now. So some of the new folks that are here, interim city manager that started here in the middle of the summer. He's expected to be here for 6 months or so while we search for a long permanent city administrator. I keep saying manager, city administrator. So I'd like to remind everybody that even though we are in the midst of a non-permanent city administrator, there's a lot going on in the city. That work doesn't end just because we don't have a permanent city administrator. So I did in my spotlight remind folks of the things that we do have going on in the city. There's a lot going on 24 hours a day in the city, but I'll just highlight a few of them before I get to the main topic. And I'm really looking for input from you folks today. Gilroy Ice Center, for the Sharks Ice Center, still continues. We have an ad hoc committee working on that actively. So that process is going on. We've made a little bit more progress in this past month, and hopefully in the near term we'll be able to have more information for the public about how the progress is going for the Gilroy Sharks Ice Center. Talked about this before. Recreation is on the council agenda. Last meeting or meeting before that, council did ask staff for a recreational assessment. So we did ask staff to take that to an outside organization to come back and really do a deep dive on how Gilroy can do better with recreation. And hopefully, eventually, that just means probably more services for the community. It's going to take a while to get to that because we need financial assistance, finances to come along with that. But it is on our agenda. Civic Center Master Plan. We talked about that multiple times. That is, about a year ago, it went out to the public and it came back to council. The council decided to put together a plan to look at Civic Center Master Plan for this area. So that's a youth center, a senior center, a new city hall, a gym and a swimming pool and a theater. So that went through community input and through designs and environmental review. That will come back in the spring. And then, as I said last meeting, then the real work begins. You know, how do we start talking about if we can fund something like this, right? Which is most likely through bonds through the public. Construction of the fourth fire station, the lot out of Miller Avenue. We did hire architectural services for that. Construction of a fire station, totally when you start with design and you get to construction, it's a 2+ year process. So that's what's happening with the fire station. And as I mentioned before, police chief's search, we paused the hiring until the very end of this year. We'll get back with a recruitment firm. We'll get back to some final candidates. And when we get a new city administrator in the beginning of the year, then we'll get to a final selection of a new police chief for this community. So that's a lot of review. I know I've talked about that in the past. As I mentioned before, one of the really important topics, and I wrote about it last month, was that we're in the city administrator search. And I'm really looking for feedback from the community this morning about what you think is important in the city administrator. Right, some of the things that have been talked with, a lot of conversations that I've had so far. I've met with the Chamber of Commerce, I've met with people from the Peoria Foundation, I met with other community members. We met with other community members, and this is just an extension of that process, right? And I'm glad so many members from council are here so they can hear what this community thinks is important for a city administrator. And as well, I'd like to incorporate that conversation. On Monday, we are going to be live for our economic development director search as well. It's something that this council decided earlier this year that we want to be very active when it comes to economic development. And the search begins Monday. I think they go live on Monday. It's even posted on the website right now, coming soon. I think Monday it officially starts. So I'd like to open the floor for, start off with city administrator, about what this community thinks is important about a city administrator. And I got my trusty Steph on here on my right, he's gonna be taking notes. So if you guys are talking and I'm not taking notes, it's because he is. So does anybody have any thoughts on city administrator? Dan?
So I'd like to see somebody who actually lives in Gilroy.
Okay.
I think that's essential.
You're not the first person who's ever said that. So,
Sure.
yeah, a lot of people have that feeling. In the world that we live in today, that's not an unusual request, especially for your very top person in your city. It's funny though, a lot of people say that, some people say that about all of our city staff, and that's very difficult. It's very difficult with cost of living, where people live, families are, it's very difficult. But I do hear that a lot about who should be living in this community and who shouldn't. It's just kind of interesting. But city administrator, I don't know if that's a commitment we can make, but that's something that a lot of people have said for sure. Yes, sir.
I'm not so concerned that they live in the city, because I certainly want somebody that's worked in city administration before and has the experience. Not so much with the city administrator, but watching some of the things that have happened at the high school with superintendents that they've got. I'm really concerned that you look at somebody that in their past positions has worked well with the people there. I mean, I've seen the school district that people don't work really well in the organization when they come in. They may have had the experience, but they're not very good at working with their staff.
Yeah. Great point, right? So it's not just years of experience, it's about what your experience at. And I do believe that this community is interested in someone that has high level capability of working with staff and the community and local organizations.
So I guess, and to just follow up that, and it's probably part of the process anyway, is that when you're getting down to the last candidates you're doing, that your staff is part of the selection process.
Good point. Good point, David.
I would say something also is I've heard, well, they want to have this one in by January 1. So I would say, don't rush it, because where that's going to get us. So take the time, make sure they're vetted, make sure they're part of the community, have meetings with this potential person or people. Just don't rush it.
Great point. So if you guys didn't hear that, don't rush it. We have a date. It's a goal. It's a goal. I don't think any of us on council is married to that goal. It's just a goal. But good point. Yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Do you have any candidates do you have any candidates at all?
Well, officially, it won't start on this.
No. Right now,
Yeah.
do you have anyone that you're looking in particular? Do you have any candidates for this position?
No.
No.
So And it's important that I add to that, because really I don't. But if I did, I wouldn't say so, because this is a search, right? We wanna make sure we wanna make sure that everybody is considered. And this search is being taken place by outside search firms, this is what they do. And we're leaving that in their hands, right? And I talked about before, there's an ad hoc and council that the search firm works directly with us. We're there just for administration expediency. We want it to go along quickly. At the end of the day, everyone on council has an opportunity and obligation to be engaged in the process, and everyone on council will have an opportunity to meet and interview and vet the final candidate, and nobody's talking to any candidate yet. Promise you that. Gary?
So I'm curious, does the council, I mean, do they have an idea of what they're looking for?
Sure.
I mean, I don't believe we have. Say that. Or, you know, that the community and city council are all saying, hey.
Yeah.
How 50 years? Then you can hire somebody to meet those goals.
Yeah,
And if you don't have that, then you're just giving somebody a title.
yeah,
And I think that's been the mistake. We need to hire people with the skill set to accomplish the goals.
Yeah.
And the vision that we have in this community. 50 years, 100 years, I don't
Yeah.
care what it is,
Yeah.
but that's how you hire someone.
yeah. All of the input that's coming from today, that's come from the previously today, will go into that final, messaging that we want for someone that works for the city. And that won't happen until after this committee. That won't happen until probably next week when we get all that information. But I believe a lot of consideration is going into the long-term vision of this. I don't believe that. There's a lot of consideration going back into what's the long-term vision of this community. And it's not, we are not going to hire based on some limitations of folks. We are gonna hire based on what we want. And going back to what you said, if we can't find it fast, we'll keep looking.
It's gonna be tough, I believe. Cause I saw the cities magazine yesterday. And I think there's like 6 cities very close to us that are looking for the same thing, so. It's a very competitive market, so we may have to go out a couple times, that's sure. And then each council member comes to the table with what they expect in a new city administrator. And then our consultant puts all that together. And they're gonna give that to us Monday night to approve before they send it out, the brochure. So it's coming together.
But as you said, right next door, Hall Street looking at the same thing. Exact same time for a city administrator and others.
Yeah.
If you look at the website of the company that's gonna be doing the search. The searches that they're doing is incredible. It's police chief, city manager, public works director, economic, I mean, just going on. Right? So, yeah, it's gonna be a competitive market. I mean, I think our interim city administrator at our last council meeting, he said that as well. It's a tough market, so we're not gonna rush it.
And some of us have been through this process before, so we come to the table with different eyes than when you just go through it with experience. You bring this experience and help you pick someone that's gonna be long-term and good for the city. Like one of my biggest things I want somebody that tells truth. If you're a liar, get out.
That should be a minimum.
And when we go through this system, I wanna make it very clear to whoever we give the job to. If you're not cutting it in 6 months, we're gonna cut you. Right, give you over and over again.
So like a probation period.
Yeah.
Which everyone else goes through.
So are they under contract or you just hire them?
Yeah. And the city administrator works directly for the council.
So Greg, I think if your definition of what the job entails and what your expectations are, this city's expectations are. that will help eliminate probably quite a few people, like, I don't think you have to say, are you lying? But also, just to be clear, I didn't mean hire somebody from Gilroy, I just meant that whoever is hired, I would like them to live in.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Sorry if I got that
No, it
wrong.
wasn't-
I got that.
yeah.
One. Yeah. I got that one. With Bruce?
Yes, I like the, thinking, I think we should vet. Vet them and give them a time period of 6 months or so, because previous city administrators. I didn't see that, so that I totally agree with Cornell.
We were doing an annual evaluation for our previous city administrator. We were.
I think you would even,
No,
popping that in 6 months.
6 months.
It's like, is it, can we even do that? Like, that part of that agreement, can we have to commit to a full year if things aren't going well in 6 months? That's what we.
They're at will, just like you said, they're at will. If majority of us at any given meeting want to put that item on the agenda to get rid of somebody for a good cause reason, we could do that. We don't have to wait at all.
Okay.
No, they're completely at will.
Thank you for your point.
But ultimately, there's consequences that come with that as well.
100%.
So, and it also comes down to how you negotiate a contract. And in a situation where you have a very tight market of people to choose from and you want to choose the better ones, you're going to have to potentially agree to things in order to get those people. That will mean that if you do not find that they are satisfactory, say in 9 months, well, gee, it might cost you 150 grand just to say bye-bye. Okay, so that also has to be understood. And sometimes that's okay. But you also have to have a period of time where somebody actually can make a difference. Obviously, if there are clear things that are unethical or what have you, you can do all kinds of things. But other than that, somebody has to have enough runway that you can actually tell that they can make a difference too, if they're not just completely incompetent. And then it would mean I'm incompetent, he's incompetent, because we wouldn't put somebody.
What else? Oh, sorry, yes, sir. How are you?
Yeah, this is hot off the press here. I know it's very important to select the new chief of police and all that, but I'm concerned about what's going on now.
Yeah.
Which is. This is hot off the press, violent crime increased 24% in Gilroy. Thefts, let's see, assaults. 36 reported assaults, burglaries, 14 burglaries. I'm on that list. They broke into my car, and 2 weeks later, they broke into the shed out. Vandalism, 79 cases. Theft, 135 reported in a 30-day period. So that's what I'm focused on, right? Is the current crime rate. When you ever eaten Odie's?
So public safety.
Yeah, have you been to Odie's restaurant?
Sure.
It's a hallmark. They have one of their doors has a plywood put over it, because while they were in there in the morning, opening up, getting ready for customers, an idiot comes along and breaks the window out, even though the door is unlocked. So they're not making enough money to repair that 40-year-old door with the glass in it, so now it has plywood.
So what's your thoughts with public safety and city administrator with this topic that we have today?
So at the last council meeting, talked about raising your percentage off what you make off of hotels. But see, I never saw any hard numbers of what's the average cost of a hotel in Gilroy a night? 150? See, that's what makes the determining cost of whether you can get away with jacking up the price, not because we're the lowest in the county.
But getting back to like your first comment and the city administrator search and economic development, what's your thoughts?
On getting another city administrator.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what's going on right now. We got storefronts. And the outlet malls that used to be a big attraction, they're gonna come down to Gilroy. I've lived here for over 20 years. Now we got empty storefronts.
So good topic. I'll segue with that. So economic development, right?
Well,
Can I take it from there for a second? Give me a second.
go ahead.
Thank you. So one of the things that we're also doing for Monday is economic development search, right? So getting back to early in the year with council, the priority is, one of our priorities is economic development for so many reasons that you're alluding to. That are very important. Economic development is extremely important to the longevity and the improvement of the services of this community, right? Because we just add more funds to the general fund, so we can have more public safety, have more police, have more fire, have more recreational services. So the fact that you're mentioning the outlets, you know, you're not wrong, right? This is something that we've talked about the year before, that this council talks about. We've got to figure out a way to have more investment and renewed investment at the outlets. The challenge is, right, the outlets is privately held company, right? City doesn't own it. It's not city property, right? But it's up to us to have some plans in place that we can use the outlets for what's best for Gilroy, right? And that's why we believe by getting an economic development director, they're the ones that are gonna build those relationships to do that. So public safety, you're not alone. Majority of this community wants better public safety.
Can I add one thing, Greg? So I think it should also be known that this is not something just very specific to Gilroy. And part of the reason that there's a lot of this problem is you have a district attorney's office that is not hard on crime. And so you have people who are able to be picked up for throwing, you know, a rock through Forming's window. And then possibly a week and a half later, just come back and do it all over again because you don't want to get prosecution at the DA's office. So, you know, I would encourage you and anybody else who has a real problem with crime, which I do too, is to be active in that as well and letting that be known, because that's a big part of the problem. Police can keep picking people up, but if they're not put to jail, if they're not sent away, they can just keep coming back and doing the same thing over and over again. So.
Well, I understand about the crime thing, but my car got broke into. They pretty much took my sunglasses. So 3 days later, now where I live on Law Longer Way, that's the pathway to go to the shelter. Have you been to that shelter?
Yeah.
They pack them in like ticks on a dog, right?
You gotta stay focused, man. You gotta stay focused. But you're entering into a space that I'm uncomfortable. Like, stick to the topic today.
Well, see,
Please.
I would have brought this up during the council meeting, but you said you can't ask questions.
It's not a discussion.
Yeah, it's not a discussion.
It's not a discussion here either.
Yeah, but why is that?
Okay.
How
How people do talk to you all day long about your topic, but that's not the topic today. Sorry. Public safety is fine. Public safety is fine. Let's talk after. I'm not saying you can't talk today, but there's an agenda today. There's a topic today.
Well, there's an agenda at the council meeting too.
Exactly right. Thank you.
But let's talk about that.
Who else?
You know, you can include chief of police and talk to them, because like, we don't know what's going on with the crime.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
We gotta get the.
Perhaps one of these next meetings will be with the police chief. It'd be perfect timing for that. We'll have one definitely for public safety.
So you remind me of Trump.
Yeah.
When people ask.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Economic development, city administrator, other stuff for city of Gilroy. Come on, there's gotta be more about city administrator.
So, are you gonna have, like, who interviews the city administrator candidates? Are you gonna include anybody from the public, or is it gonna be like staff or?
Research consultant, recruitment consultant starts, they narrow it down, bring it back to council.
But talk about your role as the ad hoc.
Yeah, so thank you. So the ad hoc, there's an ad hoc committee, myself, Councilmember Bracco, Councilmember Fugazzi, right? The large amount of candidates that the recruitment firm finds, they bring it to the ad hoc. We help vet it down to a number that we feel that the council would be very, very beneficial for the council to put in front of council. Our goal would be to get 5, 6, 7 candidates in front of council. Right. As far as the community, like out of the community, yeah, this is what we're doing.
But that interview will be a closed session process. That's a performance appraisal. It's a direct hire. That's not a public meeting.
But as far as the search, if I can say, this is not something in the classifieds kind of job search. This is a relationship job search where the firm that we have and the gentleman from that firm who is heading up our search is well versed in who probably all the candidates are already, because it's a very small subset of people to begin with. And so then by looking at our community, listening to all of the council members who they've interviewed, they're able to understand how to do the matchmaking, right? It's almost like that Indian matchmaking show. So they're like, oh, okay, you want this, I know these 5 guys. These are the 5 guys I'm going to reach out to and say, hey, this looks like it might be a great opportunity for you to move your career forward by coming to Gilroy. You've got all the skills they're looking for, and it might be the next step that you want to take. And that's how the whole kind of process works. So it is a very finite set of people, and you have a very professional person who's done this for a long, long time, who knows how to do that matchmaking.
But, go ahead, Bill. Yeah.
Well, you know, you're talking about the ad hoc, and it's your committee right here. With her question, it's somebody from the committee. In the past, as just a community member, I have sat on hiring councils here when you're looking for a position within the city. Okay, so so you've got people from the staff, but you also have people that aren't directly involved with the city in part of that interview process among the candidates. And I think she was asking, I mean, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but when you're doing that committee, would you like input also from a couple, select community people to help you with that evaluation?
At this point, we don't have a plan to do that, but that's something that we can take back to council.
I've done this, I believe this is my 5th time, and we've had both ways with community panels and not. And one of the things with community panels is most of the people in the room have an agenda. They want somebody that's gonna fit with their group. And we came down to 2, and we went with the one the community recommended. It's probably one of the worst city managers we've ever had. And the gentleman that's running the city now is the one the community didn't pick. And he went somewhere else, and now he's the intern here. And he's really, really good, won't you believe?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to say with community panels and stuff. But I think the way we're doing it right now with the subcommittee and all of our councils all involved, it's rare to see a council that works together for the good of the city where everybody's on board, and that's what we have right now. So I believe this time we are gonna get a really good candidate that the community is gonna be really happy with. Because we are looking for somebody that's gonna be seen in the public. The community is gonna know who they are. He's gonna work with our staff and get things done. We're tired of things not getting done. We want things to happen.
But I don't think, Bill, we're that far apart.
Well, yeah, but let me just clarify that.
Sure.
When you come in with the city, I'm not saying there would be a separate community panel. Okay, that it would be find 2 or 3 people from the city. And by the way, when you come into these councils, it's not like people say, hey, I want to be in that position. It's the HR manager that contacts somebody from the city and asks them to be in addition to the panel. I mean, it wouldn't be too bad if the council is sitting and has a couple of people that aren't on the council that are adding their voices. Not the.
But here's 40 voices right here, so I don't think we're that far apart. I know you're saying panel and I'm saying input, we're not that far apart.
Yeah, but now we're talking about what's there. You're gonna be interviewing the candidates for this position.
Yeah.
Is anybody from the community that's not on the council going to be in to kind of add their voices to your selection? I mean, it was never my selection when it was on there, but I was able to add my thoughts.
At this moment, it's not set up yet. So, as I said, I'll take it back to the group and I mean, we have months to go, so I'll take it back to the group.
So realistically speaking, that doesn't sound very practical because we all have our innate biases, right? And so then you do that and something isn't right, then you're gonna get banged. I think that's not a good idea. You're paid to do a job and to get it done.
But one thing, as I said, as I've said in my spotlight, and as I said as council, when we announce this. The community that's interested, reach out to all your council members, reach out to the individual ones you have a relationship with. You're gonna have your input, you're doing it now, right? I've met with Chamber of Commerce, right? We are getting input from this community. It's not quite at the panel level, I know, I'm sorry, but we're close, so go ahead, man.
So I just wanna say, like Bill, Leanne has called me to be on panels when there's an opening and they narrowed it down to several candidates. It's not that a person from the community has more input than anybody else. They have strict guidelines for what we are evaluating. The questions are the same for every person. It's not like we are just throwing out random questions that we think they should be asked. So it's not a willy-nilly thing.
If I may, I understand, but I think this is a completely different position, and I also understand we have representative government. And so people elected a group of people to make some of the more difficult and stand behind them, right? Decisions, and that means that you, because it still is at large when people like myself were elected, can send me all the emails, can ask to meet me for coffee, you can do all the things that you want to do to have your input put in, and that will be used to make the decisions that I make into who I think is the best candidate. And I think at lower levels within the city staff, I think it's absolutely appropriate to get some sort of help. I don't think it's going to be as helpful here.
And this, I've been in these before too. This is a conversation. This is not a panel where every single person has a question that they have to ask for. That is not set up like this. Like when we've done the city clerk searches, it literally is a conversation behind closed doors where we could actually ask different questions. And there's not any one question that like Dion would ask, and then I'm supposed to ask my question. It literally, some people are quiet. Some people don't say anything because they've done the work ahead of time. But that's where it's completely different.
What allows the process to go through.
Yeah, because it's a relationship. It's a direct relationship, which is much different than our professional relationships with directors, department directors, or staff members that you guys might have been on those panels. This is a direct employee of ours that is in a deep relationship, and so it's very different.
Right, and as the city administrator does work directly with council.
Yeah.
Right, and we make the ultimate decision, what I'm saying, on the hire and on the separation. Whereas all of the folks that you're talking about being hired, we have zero influence really on the hiring and on the dismissal, and that's why there is public input. Because we don't get to have it.
And that's why sometimes we like being in these positions, because we don't have to have anybody from city staff in that relationship.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, it can either be all 7 of us together talking about an evaluation, or it could be like bringing in the city attorney, bringing in the city clerk, bringing in the city administrator, and having that conversation, because it literally is that small of a group with 0 staff influence.
That's our charter set up.
Yeah, that too, yeah. In fact, that I was just gonna.
Yeah, we're following. Yeah,
following charter.
The charter says city council hires the city administrator. It also says city council stay out of the business of the staff. And that's where you, the public, are on these panels. We couldn't be on those if we wanted to.
Yeah, we're not even allowed to provide
But
influence.
there's a balance there that seems to work. Gary.
So. Would you agree that when you're elected to office, both the financial manager and brand?
Maybe more.
And I've known all 4 city managers, that's Jay Botson. And I think last 3 are financial managers than brand managers. And I think that's a disconnect.
Yeah.
That's a huge disconnect. And I think that's part of the frustration with those city managers, that they weren't branded. It allowed our brand to decline. I was talking to Jay years ago, and he made the comment, he says, I don't know what happened over the last 20 years. At one time, Gilroy was all about community, and Morgan Hill was about money. He says, over the last 20 years, it's changed. Gilroy's all about money, and Morgan Hill's become all about community. And I think we need to go back on track, and really consider what our brand is, what our community is. That's what sets who you are. Not how well you manage the books, but who you are. And I think that needs to be a big part of what you're looking
I got some great feedback from a local resident, grew up in Gilroy, lives in Morgan Hill, John Kent. So a lot of you people are gonna know that name. John's family built and developed a lot of non-regulated targets around here, but they are a local family. He talked exactly about that, and he's been at it for 30 years, and he watched the flip, that Gilroy Morgan Hill flip that you're just talking about, where we've lost our vision. And Brand, I like how you said it, our brain, right? Thank you. Stefan, I saw you go right to the pen when Gary was talking.
That was a good point.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jane. Sorry.
Greg, one thing I would encourage the council to pursue too when you're vetting the candidates is their understanding and knowledge and their general thoughts on the 2040 general plan. I mean, we actually have it. That's probably the best document right now we're supposed to be using for guidance. And I really want to hear, where are they on that? Have they read it? Do you know their experiences in following others? I think could be really helpful.
Great idea. Great idea. Well, economic development. Come on, this is our chance. It all starts happening next week. Gee,
Can we, I know the Sharks was on the agenda.
Yeah.
We had said and developed your team, your
Yeah.
committee with that. But I was wondering, at one of your past meetings, first I should ask, what's the percentage or a high percentage that the Sharks, is it gonna happen or what's your guys' feel?
no way I'm answering that question. No way I'm answering that question.
So, let's see how we're moving forward.
Yeah.
We're moving as if it's gonna, okay. Speaking at one of your last coffee.
We've never stopped moving as a business with what's gonna happen. We're working hard. It's slow.
When Jimmy was here at one of your meetings, I had asked about the stoplight that's to go in Monterey, the old Monterey Highway and Monterey Frontage Road out there. He said that was in with planning and working and that it was looking about starting end of year, end of this year. Because before anything would happen with the chart, that might not be it. So I know that's gonna be postponed because you're not there yet. In the interim, right now with the Highway 25 overpass, the traffic in that area is substantial. And the only reason I know is I'm out there every day because my parents live out there. And it is bumper to bumper at times, and you can't get across the lanes. People block the intersection. Is there any hope in talking with the state on if it's a temporary, you know, like they have on Heckler Pass and other areas when they're doing construction, a temporary light that could be put in that intersection?
So there's two questions there, I think, right? I'm gonna go to my capital improvement plan expert, Councilmember Hilton. Can you talk about the light that she's talking about? I don't think that's dependent. Is that dependent?
It's not necessarily, that stuff changes all the time, like of when it's gonna go in, and so since the Sharks thing has been, you know, it's moving slower, you know, than normal, then yeah, it won't get reaction. As far as like requesting a light and stuff like that, that's different because I know Fugazi figured it out, like that's Caltrans in certain portions of that area, you know, to try
Can
to.
somebody talk to Caltrans from the
Yes,
city?
so if I can add,
Yeah.
I think this is absolutely a topic that our next mobility meeting, I'll bring it up that. As far as a temporary kind of solution, because of all of the construction work that they're doing, because what you're getting is a bunch of bypass traffic. That some of it's going to be permanent because they don't have Castro Valley Road or what have you anymore. And some of it's going to be a little bit more temporary. Because some of the people are utilizing the back way to get to 25 and going down also to get there. So I'll at least mention it, and everybody that's there that can know about that is there and follow up. As far as whether or not it would be put there if the Sharks thing were not to happen, I don't know. That's a further discussion council have to take up because it's capital expenditure, whether or not it would make sense to spend there if there were not to have Sharks.
Jimmy had just shared that earlier this year that this was something that was looked at, planning had looked at it, going to be finalizing it, but nothing would happen until at that point. It would have to be, as we said before, construction.
And that traffic problem, unfortunately, it's not limited to the afternoon. If you're going in the morning, if you go in the morning at, Los Alamos start, because now all the Gavilan traffic now goes, instead of using Castro Valley Road like they used to in Mesa. Now all Gavilan is using Monterey Road, going to Luchessa and converging with the, Los Alamos parents around 8 o'clock, and it gets backed up all the way to Monterey Road. It's a big problem. Yeah, yes, sir, Bill.
With the economic now that came up about the outlets. Yeah. You know, the outlets are never gonna recover, you know, you just saw the way people shop today. We went from downtown to the outlets. Now it's all on the web. I mean, you know, it's not only the outlets that's in our outlets, you go anywhere. I mean, and I did 9,000-mile tour around the US here in August. Show, you know, stores are closed in these outlets. Okay, we ought to take a look at that land and say, you know, what's the realistic, you know, setup out there?
Absolutely.
So one of the things, again, to follow up also with Greg saying, you know, it is private property, so there are levers that we can turn to some extent. But some of the encouraging things is, you know, part of that was already recently sold. I read in a business journal just the other day that Take Flight, I think is who it is, which is this parachute kind of thing, is creating an entertainment center. And part of that, one, whether or not it for sure ends up happening or what have you, that's the plan that I read in this business journal. So I think there are opportunities for changes that people will want to come in and recycle that property to meet whatever the community market demand is. And that's kind of what you want. And then on the economic development side, that's something like that, for instance, is really great because it's yet another tourism driven kind of items. So you can have that thing there, or the thing over off of 10th Street, another thing, we've got Gilroy Gardens. So these are the kind of things, again, with an economic development director and getting some good internal workings on how we can pull certain levers to actually boost those things along are going to be good. They're naturally happening too.
Go ahead.
Step back to the structure.
Sure.
Two questions. What is the timeline for fixing Monterey Road? And what is the status of the sharps?
Talk about Monterey Road first. Why don't you talk about Monterey Road?
So Monterey Road from the exit right at the truck stop there through basically where the frontage road turnoff was, where Jeannie was talking about. It was for a long time erroneously described within the city staff as belonging to Caltrans, when in fact it didn't belong to Caltrans. So there was a whole lot of like, well, we're going to wait for Caltrans to do that. Now, come to find out, it actually, the maintenance on that does belong to us. That has been sorted out. And now staff is basically looking at that to come back to council, I believe, because it's going to take another $1 million or $2 million to fix that section of road to get it into next spring's cycle for repair. Whether or not that'll happen, don't quote me on it, I don't know. In addition to that, I'm at least trying to pressure some of the other agencies to try to pony up. They're going to be resistant to that, but we'll see what can happen in terms of trying to mitigate some of that cost. But that's where it stands right now.
And that's really where the relationships go from. Like Tom and Terrence are on this ETA mobility, and they have a seat at the table to be with all those regional folks, staffers, and other electeds to really push them to get these answers.
Well, yeah, and that's the good part is it's just not Terrence, it's both of us.
Yeah, we have two people.
Team approach to it, and we're both engaged with both Cal.
We outnumber Morgan Hill.
Yes. It impacts us more than it does Morgan Hill, honestly, especially right now. And we've talked about that with them, about the fact that Castro Valley and Mesa are closed, so you have that added amount of traffic going on in both ways, especially during construction, but in the future too, until that bypass is done for Santa Teresa. So we're telling Caltrans, you've got to pay for some of this maintenance, this deferred maintenance, because of the increase of traffic. And it's a burden you're putting on the city. And it's not going to say fair or not fair, but it's an undue burden. And we've got to, they don't even look at that. So we're pressuring them to take a look at that. Do the best we can.
If we now realize that we own that section of road, can we get the repair guys out there and fill some potholes?
Well, and I've actually been doing that with C-Click Fix also, just so you know. Probably 2 or 3 major ones that have been filled twice now in the last 3 or 4 months because of the when you have it that bad, the road, and then you fill it, that fill doesn't even last that long. So they are on it, but again, I would encourage you, if there is one that you know of, just report it and they will go out and fix that particular hole. Now, should they be a little bit more proactive? Okay, probably, okay? But there's a lot of us and there's few of them. So if you see a pothole, report it. And if multiple of you report it, it's probably gonna get fixed faster.
And there's loaded semis that go along that route, so it's, every month. If you want the report on the sharks, I would say, if you wanna just sort of tell them briefly what we've done.
Yes.
We're not giving away anything by telling them.
We've reached out to the Sharks, they've responded to us, and so we're going through that. I think we're scheduling a meeting for next week, not this coming week, but the following week, the ad hoc committee to form a
second
second meeting to form a response to the Sharks. And the whole goal is to get the Sharks at the table with us. Right now, it's just back and forth, but the whole goal is the next step is to get them at the table and start really talking about numbers.
The big dilemma is the construction costs over the last 3 years, from the data that I looked up, went up 5%, 9%, and 9% in 3 years. So when you look at those increases in costs versus where a term sheet was originally, it's publicly available, signed at $30 million, you'll see that there's some work that has to be done in order to make this happen. And that's what the subcommittee is working on.
And in the real world, like Karen said, I live in that too, being in construction and glass, and I've watched this, especially over these last 4 years, the cost just in my industry has gone up exponentially each year. And so that's the reality. And so we have to have that conversation with them to come to agreement of what that looks like, of their buy-in along with our buy-in, and try to come to the middle. And this is part of the process that's always been. So this isn't something that's abnormal. It's taking longer, yeah, but it's process that we have to go through to get to that other side, to come to a determination if this project can be, we're agreeable to make this project happen. That's what we're angling for.
And in full transparency too, there's two parts of this, right? There's the building of it, and then there's all the infrastructure costs that we basically went on the hook and said, we're going to do these infrastructure costs. And those costs have gone up dramatically too. So there's still going to be a whole amount of more transparency that's going to have to go on so that all of you as residents understand what this is. Because where it might have been 9 million for this, it's now, and I'm just throwing relative numbers, maybe it's 16 or it's 18 million by the time we get to where we actually start to do this stuff, simply because of how the construction costs have gone up so dramatically in the last 3 to 5 years.
Would that be modeled out? I mean,
well,
you
let's
would
not go
have
there.
some projections that the Sharks, this isn't their first rodeo, they have a lot of other projects. I think they would have modeled it out and did at least some projections, have some idea that the economy, it wasn't gonna be flat, it's gonna stay 5%, year after year after year. So we must have some idea that.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be motivated to do that, Jeannie. So this is.
I don't rep the Sharks, I rep Gillen.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the whole thing, bring them to the table so that you can work through those.
Right, but I'm just saying, we must have modeled it as well on the infrastructure. We said, hey, we're gonna own the infrastructure part of it. I think somebody would.
Well, and with that too, you talk about the infrastructure, do you just do where the Sharks are going, or do you do the whole park, the future too? And that's another thing that we have to look at, is the grants, we got
All that
soccer.
infrastructure.
The whole-
Well, there's a huge
and-
drainage
yeah,
issue.
While you're doing infrastructure, would it be better to do the whole site and look at that too? I think you have to look at big picture, just not right now, but the whole long term of the project. So, because that's an integral part of that whole sports park. Build the soccer fields out, then you can have baseball year round. Right now, you can't do that because everything happens just in the baseball fields, both baseball and soccer. So we've got to develop the whole picture there. It's important.
Back to Monterey Road. I believe that part of our road construction and maintenance this year is Monterey Road. Unfortunately, not all the way to Caltree.
That's right, not that section.
Where's the stop? About
Right before that, the cutoff road that she's talking about.
Yeah.
so most of Monterey from 10, both sides, north and south, will be maintained part of this cycle. It's just.
And I believe also the Bolsa side has some that we're doing too, which is the iconic.
You're in city limits on Bolsa.
Yeah.
That's how you make the turn.
Yeah,
Now,
It's just that envelope, it's that envelope that we keep talking about that was under misunderstanding.
they never put it in the plan because they thought it was Caltrans,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't part of the plan when they constructed the asphalt paving plan. They did up to there, and they did from the off-ramp on Bolsa Road down. And so that's what's been now corrected within city
you
staff.
get the finger pointing, been here 60 years, and out on that side of town, it has been on the frontage road and out there. You call and it's like, no, that's city, no, that's county, no, that's state.
Yeah.
And those, you might want to talk to them, and I'd like to know from you, where does it show on the Monterey frontage road? Where is the city? How far do you maintain that? Because that's another problem, because there's finger pointing there, and you need to talk to the state about the fencing. Because you get the homeless that are over by the truck stop, and if the sharks do come, that fence gets cut every time, and there's a pathway that goes across from there over to the park and back. So I think there's other issues down the road that need to be looked at if the sharks do come, to make that area
For sure,
desirable. And
for sure. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned some sharks are coming, there's gonna be more foot traffic in the area. Probably coming from further north.
Yeah.
Is there a plan to get some crosswalks across Winchester?
There's a new
City Monterey?
No.
Okay.
So,
Bethesda and where?
Church of Winchester?
We like going there.
Yeah, there's a new signal going there.
not there, in between.
But where?
Oh, well, is that,
Monterey.
yeah, I think he's talking about,
Monterey, Chester.
no, so there's a small street in between, I can't remember. the name. But to answer your question, there is work going on Luchessa, even sharks are not, Luchessa and Church, for example.
Okay.
Where,
That's a tough one to cross,
which a light is going in?
which a light is going in, and there'll be some
Okay.
crosswalk.
Okay.
Yeah, that's coming soon.
There's a lot of people that are crossing there, and.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one in the car, it's a real tough one. on-
Maybe in between, like maybe in between the light going in, maybe we can get some kind of solar powered crosswalk lights.
That, you're right, that street is tough, I mean, people are flying on, it's wide, and in the median, there's no safe place, so. It's a great, Stefan? Thank you.
With sharks, yeah, fails, but.
Yeah.
With the whole use.
The park, yeah.
There's a lot of kids
Yeah.
walking across that a lot of distance.
For sure. Great idea, thank you. Gary?
So after the meeting, at Miller and Barn, Supervisor Reyes.
Yeah.
She had Thursday, she had a listening session about the county's new economic development. Person that they're adding, particularly I think for the South County.
Yeah.
And in that discussion, she got an earful about county's change of ag zoning. And so it really got her attention. So she's meeting with the small farmers this Monday, this coming Monday. But I think that's an opportunity for the city and the new economic development person to work collaboratively. Yeah, because one of the assets we have is our open space, our farm. And I think we need to be involved in that discussion. Because it does bring people here and it's a reason for people to come. And so, don't let that fall off the radar. I think that's good.
Great, I love it. Anything with that? Well, we're getting close to 1 hour. Yeah, Tom.
We have an update on the fire station.
Yeah, fire station, I mentioned it earlier, we hired the architectural firm, right? Though that process is starting, but. Between starting plans and finish constructions, well, it's over 2 years.
It's a construction manager, works out the design with our architect.
Yeah. Construction management team, yes, sir, yeah.
Yes, on the subject of a fire station, do you guys ever see the ads on TV for that steel construction company?
The general.
I don't know what the name of it, but they show dozens of different designs.
Yeah.
On the building. They say, tell us what you want and we'll design.
Yeah.
Of course, you'd have to do all the inside work, but it just seems to me that they could always make a building. And you could tell them we want a fire station with so many bays or something, and maybe a police substation in the same building. I know it's gonna be up on Santa Teresa somewhere, but it needs.
Yeah, I think the challenge with the metal buildings is they don't meet the standards of, somebody help me here with,
Fire.
there's a higher level of standard for emergency facilities in the city. I don't know if there's a term for it, but it has to be like the hospitals, right? If this is 6.2 earthquake, that has to be 8.2. I mean, I don't think the metal buildings do.
Well, I'm sure a big company like that knows all those guys. And it seems to me that it would be a heck of a lot cheaper for the city to do that, something like that. I would hate to see another building designed like the police over here. Nothing looks like a
It will not,
building from
it will not
the
be.
age.
It will not do. It's a
Yeah.
typical firehouse, not big.
Okay, another thing while I'm
Yes, sir.
blathering on, you talk about recreation.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever talked about getting a YMCA in Gilroy?
Yes.
Have you ever been to the YMCA combined with the senior center in Morgan Hill?
Sure.
Anybody?
Many people here now, I'm sure.
It's a beautiful building, beautiful.
Yeah,
Swimming pool and then a big dining room for the senior center.
but this is what we're talking about on our civic center master plan, something like that. Sure. And the YMCA organization is in Gilroy. Heavily, right? They're not,
Yes.
we don't have a partnership with them on a facility like Morgan Hill, but they are operating in Gilroy. In
But, you know, that.
for recreation in the summer, and they are working
Everything's
directly with the
everything's
school.
together.
And the senior center, they
And
are.
they do the senior center every
lunches
single
there.
day. The YMCA is at the senior center every single day.
You'd have to do a lot of jiggling around with land, but.
Yes, sir. All right, you guys, that's about 1 hour. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Grab a bite on the way out and another coffee. And more coffee. Thank you. You're busy today. A lot of coffee.